Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to my September reading wrap up. This will include my stats and my favorites. If you're looking for a list of every book I've read this month, you will want to go check out my playlist that is called Weekly Wrap-Ups, because there I talk in detail about every book that I read this month. But here I just talk about my stats, tell you a little bit about what happened as an overview of the month, and then I will tell you my top 5 books of the month. That is how I do these, just to make these wrap-ups a little quicker, because basically I take an hour or more every week to just dive into everything I've read. And there is just, these videos don't need to double up on that. You know, the month of September had a lot of great things happening for me. I got to go to Wanderlust, which I have an entire vlog about, but I also have this really pretty spread in my bullet journal here, which I did with all the authors that I met, and also some pictures with, where is it? My friends who I stayed with. It was so much fun. So yeah, definitely check out that video if you want to know more about that. But it was an interesting reading month. I tried some brand new things, but I did have definitely like lower trending ratings than I normally do. Generally, books that I read are rated 4 or above, and I had quite a few that were lower rated, and that was kind of a bummer. But you know what? I also still have, I still had 7 5-star reads and 1 6-star read, even though that was a reread, and quite a few 4.5 stars. So we're still going to have some stuff to gush about. It's going to be great. But the month I still call a win. The month of September was still a win for me. In regards to business-wise, this being my small business, I was having to make some decisions to help me when it comes to tax season, as well as like the summer had just been, it does definitely fluctuate quite a bit. So I was trying to find some different streams of revenue for me. So definitely something I'm still looking into, because I know that with growth will also come, more income as we go. That's just how it works. But those are still, there's still a lot of uncertainties. We live in uncertain times. But I do know that I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be all right. But those are definitely some worries that are on my mind a lot. So I just want to always kind of be evaluating how things are going. But we are, I believe, like at my 6th month of doing this now, or we've got to be close to it. Maybe when I hit October 14th, I think it'll be 6 months. And that's just crazy, the things that I've been able to do. There also were some disappointments. I didn't get tickets for Book Bonanza. I know I'm not among the only ones who didn't make it. The team, they definitely did their best to have setup go off without a hitch. There are things that were beyond their control. And you just can't control everything when you have, thousands of people trying to get less than 2,000 tickets and opening up many, many browsers to try to get said tickets. And it was just a disappointment, because I was trying to get tickets for me and a friend, but we're on the waiting list. We'll see if we get in. And I still have a trip next year to Universal Studios with my sister to look forward to. So if I don't end up getting these tickets, we'll just put more money towards that and it'll be great. But anyway, that's just kind of a random rundown of little things that were happening. Let us get into the stats, and then we'll get into my favorites, which I'm excited to gush about more than I already have. So for the reading this month, I read 48 books. One of those was a DNF, but I always include it in my stats just for the sake of tracking which books that I DNF. Total, we had 13,946 pages, and that is a total of average of 464 pages per day. So that's pretty exciting. Definitely down quite a bit from last month, because of some certain books that I just read at the end of the month being about novella length. But I don't care. I don't really care about the page number of stuff, or I mean, even how many books. But this is the Stats Are for Nerds video that I do every month, right? Because I'm also a nerd in that way. The formats of these books were, I had 15 ebooks, 10 audiobooks, which is one of the lowest amounts of audios I've ever read. I've just been in a weird mood about audiobooks lately, which is kind of disappointing to me, especially because I just bought a shit ton in the sale, but you know. And there was 20 physical books and 12 ARCs, so that was exciting. As always, I do double dip sometimes. Sometimes I have an ebook of a physical book so that I can read it with more ease. And the same, a lot of the times I have an audio of a physical book, so things get double counted because it's just true. All forms are reading and it doesn't matter. So the ratings of these books were, as I said, I had one DNF, and this DNF was an ARC that I had. I can't remember which week I talked about it in, but it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a disappointment. It was an ARC of a new to me author I was trying, and we just weren't jiving with each other, so we moved along with that. I had one 6-star, although this was a reread, which we'll get to. I am going to talk about it in my favorites because I got an even like greater appreciation for this book when I reread it, so I want to talk about it. I had 7 5-stars, 6 4.5 stars, 21 4 stars, 6 3.5 stars, 3 3 stars, and 3 2.5 stars. Just a random note, only 7 books I read this month were standalones. 41 were parts of series, so that's crazy. Although it was almost the same as last month, which is funny. I don't read a lot of standalone books. So then the subgenres, that is a stat that I track. I read 14 dark romance, which is awesome. I love reading dark romance. And I read 12 historical, which makes me so happy because if you follow along, like I have not been in a historical mood lately. And a big portion of that is that I read Golden Angel's entire Deception and Discipline series. So that was literally 5 books right there as a part of it. But it felt good to be back in the historical romance flow of things. 10 fantasy books, 8 contemporary, 2 sci-fi, 1 erotic, and 1 paranormal. And then some tropes. I don't put up a graphic for this, but the top tropes that I read were, I had 15 forced proximity, 14 that can be considered BDSM, kinky, or have dynamic play in them. Those are, I always kind of mix those together. 13 age gaps, 9 fated mate, and 9 mafia, which is kind of cool. Mafia did not make my top 5 last month, so it was nice to be back in the game with the mafia romances. So yeah, those are the stats part of this. Now let's get into my favorites, and we go through these kind of chronologically. It's not necessarily favorite to least favorite because these are all my favorites. So we go through these kind of chronologically, and my first 5-star of the month, or the one I want to mention for this, is actually Yours Until Dawn by Teresa Medeiros. This is going to be shiny, so I'll try not to, but putting up a graphic uses up so much gigabytes, so I try to hold them when I have them. But this was my second Teresa Medeiros. At the very end of August, I read a book by hers called, Roses, is it Whispers and Roses? I can't remember, but it was for a book club. I read it for Historical Hellions. It was my first Teresa Medeiros, even though I own many of her books. And it made me so happy. It made me really happy. That one was kind of a Beauty and the Beast retelling. We won't talk about that again since I talked about it enough, and you can go see the live show where we talked about it a lot. But I immediately wanted to read more, and one of the ladies who I did that live show with, her name is Teresa, she said this was her favorite one. And so I went and grabbed it. And this is about Gabriel Fairchild, who got a reputation as a hero, and he was damaged in battle. He was a naval commander or a naval captain, and he has lost his sight, and we don't know if he'll get it back. It doesn't seem to be a permanent injury, so I want to put that out, but the hero is blind for a significant part of this book, so I guess spoiler. But I want to put that out there because some people feel like cheated out of a story that has a disability or impairment in it if they don't continue to have it. So I just want to put it out there, like, we know kind of from the beginning that we're not sure whether this will last or not. Like, the doctors don't know, but based on what, like, I heard about his injury, to me it sounded like a stress injury. I've seen plenty of TV shows that had those in it or things like that, but this was injury based. He wasn't born with it, so it's not like he just gets magically healed from it. He has only had it for a little bit of time, but it has completely, like, devastated his life. He's basically given up on living. He lives like almost a beast. He eats with his hands. He's grouchy to all his servants, and he's chased his family away, and he's miserable also because it cost him his fiance. He believes his fiance abandoned him because he's blind and he was not the same man. He's scarred now, all these things. And so now he's become a recluse. And Nurse Samantha Wickersham, she arrives in Fairchild Park to become his nurse, basically, and to help him, you know, regain some mobility and hopefully regain some confidence just in living, you know. But of course, they end up in this battle of wills together, and he claims that she, you know, he just thinks that she's horrible. They don't get along, but slowly they start to fall in love. And there are some twists and turns in this book, and this book just made me so happy. The banter was amazing. Like, this book as well has, it kind of had some aspects of a Beauty and the Beast, even though she's supposedly not beautiful. And I say supposedly because the hero can't see her enough to judge that or not. So he's just going based off of what his servants tell him. So that's all I'm going to say. But there was a twist in this book. There was a reveal that literally my jaw hit the ground. And I was like, holy crap, I understand why this was Teresa's favorite. And I was smiling through so much of it. And it was so beautiful. It had a twist that could have been very disappointing in a way. But I had no idea. And to be honest, I wish that I read more like thrillers and things now, because I'm someone who, I'm not always looking for clues. Sometimes I'm reading a book looking for clues, but like, I wasn't expecting there to be a surprise or a reveal or anything I needed to look for. So I apologize to you, because now maybe you'll figure it out what I didn't, because I've said that there's a reveal, but I don't know. I kind of knew there was a secret, but by the point in the book where it gets revealed, I wasn't expecting a reveal anymore. I was just so in love with the story. So anyway, I loved Gabriel and Sam. This was a 5-star read. It has a 2 on the spice scale. There weren't really any triggers that I could think of. I mean, except for the trauma of battle. He does have a bit of PTSD. Yes, that is one I should mention. There is PTSD. And characters in peril sometimes. I don't know, but I loved this love story. I want to read more Teresa Medeiros. I don't know when I'll get around to it, but also, it's a lie that I never read a Teresa Medeiros before I read Whispers and Roses, so I want to correct myself. I can't believe I forgot. Rake Appreciation Society, my book club with my best friend, we did read one of the vampire novels, because there is vampire historicals that she's written. Totally spaced out on it. Probably because, like, I didn't vibe as well with that book. Some of my friends, like, totally did, though. Like, a lot of them really loved it. So just don't take my word for it. I was expecting something different out of that book. And I do want to continue this series. So anyway, enough about that. The next 5-star book I want to talk about. Why are all of my books shiny this year? Guys, writers, please use matte covers. Please use matte covers for your books. It makes it so much easier for booktubers and people who love it to show it. Anyway, Broken Whispers was the second book in this series by Neva Altaj. I did also read the third one. Also liked that a lot. But this is my favorite of the 3 that I've read. She has said now, like, because there's 5 listed on Amazon currently, she said at the end of the 3rd book there is 7 at least that she has planned. And I'm so excited because these are pretty quick mafia romances, but they've been surprisingly sweet and just, the romance has been great. They honestly too haven't been like off the charts steamy or anything. This one was pretty steamy, but it wasn't anything like totally off the charts as some others were. But I really, really enjoyed this one. Just realized that I have some of my notes miswritten on the page. And so now I'm confusing myself because I put the notes for one book in the wrong spot. Anyway, so this is about Mikhail and Bianca. Now, Bianca, she's a ballerina. Her career is ending. She's only like 21. Is she 21 even? But she's going to be giving up so that she can end at the top of her career. So she's going to be stepping down from that. And then, so she gets forced into an arranged marriage. And basically Mikhail gets offered by his pecan. All of his top men are offered who wants to marry this Italian girl to make this alliance. And Mikhail actually knows who Bianca is because he has seen her perform before, and nobody else is going to marry her, even though he doesn't think that he is a good pick for her. There's a pretty big age gap between them. He actually has a daughter, and he is a scarred hero, and so he doesn't know if he'll be a good choice, but he can't bear for anyone else to have her. Also, Bianca is a speechless heroine. She lost her ability to speak due to reason, so she does use sign language. And our hero actually knows sign language. The reason that he does is a reveal, so I won't tell you, but he doesn't tell her right away because he doesn't want to reveal that truth, and he knows if he's like, hey, I know what you're saying when you do that, that he would have to answer like, how do you know sign language? Because that's a weird thing for a mobster to know for no reason. But this relationship just warmed my heart so much. It made me smile so much, and again, it was extremely sweet. This is a slow burn between them. It's one of those where like, we're married, but I'm not going to force myself on you. We're basically roommates. And it's his daughter that really kind of draws them together a bit, and he starts teaching her different signs as well. And I just really loved this. I thought it was so cute. And like I said, I really have enjoyed these books. Like Painted Scars, I didn't love the first one in the series. So if you read that and you didn't love it, I highly recommend you do continue, because in my opinion, they increase so much. And this is a new author as well, and I can just see her growing so much. But she makes me feel so much for these characters so quickly, and Mikhail and Bianca just really, really worked for me. Now, the book where I mixed these two up, I wrote Broken Whispers, but then I wrote all of the info for this book, which is His Pretty Little Burden. This is by Nikki Harris, and this was my first Nikki Harris. Sharp-eyed viewers will know that I actually had the first book in this series, because this is book 4. I had it on my TBR for September, but I didn't get around to it yet. I will. I own Our Thing and the Cosa Nostra, and I want to read those, but I got distracted by this book because I saw someone do a post about what the tropes were, and I had to have it. Even though, interesting, it does also have some tropes I don't like. But, okay. Pretty Little Burden is about our heroine, Fawn, who is in a bit of trouble and has a troubled past going. An incident happened to her a few months ago where her boyfriend died, and she also discovered she was pregnant. And she's very much encouraged by her foster brothers to get rid of the baby, because the night she got pregnant was the night that her boyfriend died. And they're like, you don't want this baby around reminding you of that. And it's partially true. She doesn't feel like she could be a good mother. She's only 18, and she does have this, like, she doesn't fully know what happened the night that she got pregnant. Doesn't fully know. So she ends up contacting Clay, who she believes is a friend of her father. Turns out, not so much. Clay is actually an enemy of her father, and she was misled. But she goes to Clay, who is actually a married man high up in the mafia, who again is an enemy of her father. And the kind of like crazy thing though about his marriage is he's married to his best friend, who it was like basically he married her so that she'd be able to control her company, because she wouldn't have been able to control her company if she didn't have a husband. And also she's a lesbian, and also they share mistresses sometimes, and currently they have, like, they share a mistress, not together, they don't do any FFM action, but they share a mistress who's bisexual. And I kind of thought that was a cool setup. I like, that would have been a cool thing too. But basically why I'm saying that is that his wife is really cool, and again is a family friend, longtime friend, and they have a partnership, and he definitely does support and comfort her as a friend. Like, it's really beautiful. And so when this girl Fawn is put in his path, which, I mean, he has some manipulative things planned for her, because he's like, I have my enemy's grandchild and daughter in my hands, and especially if this is a boy child, I have my enemy's heir. And she just landed in my lap. Like, she just walked right in and was like, here I am. And so she's kind of sort of is definitely a prisoner now, and doesn't, like, sometimes she realizes it and sometimes she doesn't. She's also extremely drawn to him and has serious submissive tendencies, and like the minute he like orders her to do something, she finds herself listening and doesn't know why, and like, you know, that's intoxicating to me. Okay, it's intoxicating. And when, like I said, Clay's wife starts to see how he feels about Fawn, she's very encouraging about this relationship, and like, I'm smiling so big. I love that. Okay, I don't know how this is gonna work out though, because this book does have a cliffhanger. You know, he's still married to his friend, and some pretty tragic things happen to Fawn at the end of this book. One of the trigger warnings being loss of a child. So that is like a spoiler, but also a big trigger warning that you need to know about this book. And I did know that going in. The author is very upfront about it. So we kind of know right from the beginning that this pregnancy is not long for this world. But Fawn and Clay are both kind of reeling from this. Fawn doesn't know if he still wants her now that she isn't a bargaining chip for him, and he wants to make sure that she's okay, because that night that she got pregnant and her boyfriend died, there's a lot more that happened than just some unprotected sex between two teenagers. There's a lot more going on, and the revelations from that are intense. So I really loved this book. I can't wait to read the next one, which is coming out at the end of this month, I think, His Pretty Little Queen. But this one was 5 stars, and it was a 4 on the spice scale for me. Loved it. The other trigger warnings though are sexual assaults, PTSD, violence, death, gore, the cheating, and pregnancy loss. So there's a big stack of triggers for this one, but it was worth it to me. Then I quickly wanted to share The Oath by Jill Bondarchuk. I gave this one 4.5 stars. This is a 2.5 on the spice scale. This is the next book after The Shield and the Thistle, which is a book that I kind of recommend if you love Outlander, but it's a little bit sillier and a little more romantic. And yeah, also a little bit sillier, but this cover is absolutely gorgeous. And I listened to the audio for this and really liked it. And I was very intrigued for The Oath, because at the end of the Sword and the Thistle, every time, okay, I can't, it's a tongue twister. At the end of The Sword and the Thistle, there is a setup for this book. And this book is about Malcolm, who is the laird of Clan, are they McKinnons? I think they're McKinnons. And Cora, who is a witch. And she legitimately is a witch. And her mother, who is also a witch, does a pretty big favor for the McKinnons, and in exchange she extracts an oath from Malcolm that he will marry Cora and protect her from any like witch trials or danger or things that might happen. And this isn't a foolish wish by this mother, because her daughter has already lived through some horrible things having to do with her being a witch. And one of those, if I don't know if you can see it in this cover, but if you look at a picture up closer of this, she has scars on half of her body, where as a child, a priest attempted to have her burned alive and almost succeeded. So this is not a, foolish whim of the mother who wants her daughter protected. And the thing is, though, Malcolm, in the beginning of this book, he doesn't realize how serious this oath is. Like, he wants to fulfill his oath, like he's an honorable man, but the thing that the witch did for him, he doesn't know if it worked, you know. And I don't want to spoil the first book by like telling you that, like, he doesn't know if it worked. And so, you know, he's very skeptical about if he needs to fulfill this oath or not. But he has a time limit, because if he doesn't fulfill this oath, the cost will be his life. Like, he will forfeit his life if he does not fulfill this oath. And, you know, he doesn't know that until he starts feeling this violent, like, tug on his insides that he needs to go find Cora and get her to the altar right now, or he might croak. He might croak over dead, and he doesn't have an heir to Clan McKinnon. He does not. So, yeah, and we meet Cora, and she is staying at her cottage. She doesn't know what happened to her mother, because she doesn't always live with her mother. She was staying somewhere else. So she doesn't know what her mother did for the McKinnons, and till like this man shows up half dead at her doorstep. And then she finds out what her mother did. And she doesn't have any choice. If she doesn't want this laird to die on her, she also like is compelled into this marriage as well. And man, I just like this. I feel like this was written much better than the first one. Also because we weren't dealing with time travel. The story's a lot cleaner. You know, like anytime you're dealing with time travel, it's very difficult to tell that story well. Okay, even the ones we love, we know that you have to make certain like leaps in your thinking, even if you're not trying to be logical. There's only a few ways that time traveling people can be together, you know. And this one much more is a paranormal historical romance. You know, we do have a witch. She is a witch. She has powers. She's able to do things to help Clan McKinnon, things that maybe put her in danger of people who want to take her down. Again, she has a pretty traumatic past. And also there's more about this oath that we will discover as time goes, because part of this oath is to protect Cora whenever she's in danger with his life if necessary, and there are certain costs to that we don't know about. And so I thought this was very well written. There's going to be a third book in this that's called The Assassin and the Slave, and we get to find out who those two people are. That will be the third book coming out the beginning of next year, and I'm so excited for that one as well. So I gave this one 4.5 stars, and it was a 2.5 on the Spice scale. Then I quickly, as I said, wanted to mention Entreat Me. This was a reread. I annotated this for one of my patrons, Daniela, who loves to pick my favorite books. So this was one of my first 6-star books at the beginning of the year. I read this, I think, all the way, I literally think I read it in January. And I loved this so much, y'all. Like, getting to revisit this, yeah, I literally read this in January. I just pulled up my thing. And getting to spend time with Levain and Ballard again, I'm reminded how powerful this woman is, not because she has great power, but she is confident, she is strong in her conviction, sometimes pig-headed. She has a deep love for her sister. She's willing to risk everything. And she also is a widow, and she had a husband who was a stand-up, wonderful man. He was an undertaker, so it was a tough job, but someone's got to do it. And for being an undertaker, he was like the life of the party is what he sounds like. Like, he was such a great man. And so this isn't a widow who's coming from like an abused life where she's happy her husband's dead. Like, she's known great love in her life. So this isn't, you know, she's getting love from a beast and it's the best that she's ever had. Like, she has had great love. And we speak of Thomas with fondness. And this time around, that really sunk in with me. And it was just absolutely beautiful. The part that Thomas has in, you know, like, she knows that what she has with Ballard is strong because she has something to compare it to. And she knows that both are beautiful, you know. But anyway, this is Beauty and the Beast retelling. It relies really heavily, I think, on the French retelling of this. However, Lou, she doesn't go to this castle because of a bargain for her father. It's actually her younger sister, Sinia, who's actually her half-sister. And she loves her so much, and she's almost like a mother to her, almost to the point of it being a bit obnoxious, okay? And Sinia is falling for Gavin de Lovett, who is the son of Ballard, who Ballard and Gavin and their estate were cursed by Ballard's wife, who it was an arranged marriage, and she was supposed to give him a son. She actually like cheats on him, so his son isn't even his by blood, but he loves him anyway. He adopts him the moment that he's born and absolutely loves him. But this woman curses them that they will never find love and that they will be tortured for until they die. And they don't even know if there's a way to break the curse, but it says like no woman will ever love him. And so both of them are going to find love and they're going to break the curse. But we don't know that Ballard also needs to find love. Like, I'm just putting that out there, like, because, spoiler alert, it's a happily ever after, so they do. But they think that Gavin is the one that someone needs to love him. So he is honestly falling for Sinia, and some things happen that have to do with her father being the crazy, foolish man that he is, where she is going to go stay with Gavin so that they can court each other, and he will help pay off the debts with, you know, the Gaston-like character in this. But Lou, she is like, nah, you're not taking my sister away and ruining her reputation, and then maybe you're gonna drop her and she'll be scorned, you know, like, So Louvain packs herself up and she goes to this magic castle as well and discovers what's going on there and is like, what the heck, we need to leave. And Sinia's like, no, I love Gavin. I want to see if I want to marry him. And Lou is like, okay, well, I'm staying as a chaperone. And while she's there keeping an eye on her sister, her and Ballard start to fall in love as well. And their romance is top tier, okay? It's fantastic. They're probably going to be one of my favorite couples of the year. Just fantastic. Love it. So yeah, this book is great. It can seem slow moving in some aspects because this is very much a character driven story. Even though there's a big plot we need to see, it is very much the ins and outs of Ballard and Lou, and just how literally there's this line where one time they're talking and he very much is beastly looking. He is becoming this like forest entity as the curse takes over his body and he becomes less human. And there are these things that Lou does. She always treats him as a man, and a man that she is very attracted to. Like, they have a chemistry that's amazing. And he just doesn't understand it. And there's this one scene where she's helping him like clean up after something happens, and she just refuses to pity him or to look on him as lesser. And he says to her, he's like, how do you do that? And she's like, what? And she's like, you give me my dignity back without even trying. And she says back to him, she's like, you never lost your dignity. Just acknowledging what's there. And it is right through the heart, you guys. It's so beautiful. And one of the last lines of this book, I'm going to quote it because it's absolutely beautiful. He does something very sweet. I won't tell you what the sweet thing is, but she looks at him and says, you must live another 4 centuries, Ballard, as must I. Any less, and I'll feel cheated of loving the finest man I've ever known. And Ballard dragged her into his arms and buried his face in her hair. My beauty, he whispered, if we lived 1,000 years, I'd still feel cheated. Like, they're so beautiful together. They just are. Like, definitely give this a try. I believe this is one of Grace Draven's oldest books, and it's one of the best. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. And then the last one I want to mention, I'm not going to say too much about. I haven't had a weekly wrap up with this book in it yet. I'll go more in depth, but this book just came out today, the day I'm filming it. So, you know, I don't want to go too much into it, but I read Losers by Harley LaRue. I got to read an arc of this, but again, it's out today. This is an MMFMM, kind of reverse harem. Like, I don't want to call it that because it does not feel like one, and that's why I loved it. If y'all have been around, people have been trying to get me to read RH or Why Choose, and I'm extremely picky about it. I have serious, like, boxes that need to be checked, and when people recommend me other ones, I'm like, no, not interested, because I'm only interested in a very specific kind, and that is when all the men love each other and the woman's not the center of attention. I need the entire relationship, however many it is, everybody needs to be a full member of the relationship and be in love with everyone who's there. I don't like where one person's at the center of it. I don't. It's not interesting to me. It's not hot just because she gets to bang everyone and be the center of attention. To me. Some people, that's what they want. They want the woman to be the one that gets all the desire, that gets all the hotness, and the men are all just panting after her and waiting for when she's going to give them attention. Fine. Cool. Not interested. Whether it's 3 or whether it's 10, I all want them together. And that doesn't happen enough for me. It doesn't. Now, in this case, I don't want to spoil too much of this, but Harley says this like in the blurb of it, because she has it listed this way. It's MMFMM. And it's written that way because there are 2 couples. Like, these men are all bisexual, and they're in like 2 couples. They all live together. They're all best friends. They all love each other, and they will share partners sometimes, but not like, so there's 2 couples, and then there's Jessica, who, if you read The Dare, you know who Jessica is. The Dare is kind of like a prequel, a setup to this novel. Now it's a few years later. Jessica's back in town. She's never been able to find anything that hits her or awakens her quite the way that one night with The Dare did. But things blew up after that. Jessica wasn't mature enough to handle it. The men weren't mature enough to handle it. And the town is just not good enough for them, in my opinion. But it's a few years later. She's back in town, and she kind of falls back in with the same crowd from high school, only now they don't jive the same way. And when a prank gets played on Manson, Jason, Lucas, and Vincent, she gets kind of left holding the bag, and they want to punish her for what happened. And she agrees to be punished, consensually, of course, with a safe word and all of that, until such time as they agree that her punishment is done. But really, it's just a chance for them all to be falling more in love with each other. And why this works so well for me, why this was a 5-star, is, like I said, there are deep connections with these men, even between like the men like not fucking, like they're all best friends and they live together and they know each other's hurts. They just aren't all sexually involved, but like, again, into 2 boyfriend couples, they are together, and there are individual and group scenes, threesome scenes, like it's all in there. And at the end of this first part, because this is the Losers Part 1, didn't have a huge like cliffhanger at it, but I understand why she split these books, because she's writing, like, I feel these guys, like I understand their hurts and their wants, and Jessica, watching her, you know, come alive and fall for each of them and have the different like sexual experiences, but also just like dating experiences, and also dealing with, you know, people's judgments and these things. Like, she wasn't able to like handle the judgment when she was a teenager, because she also didn't know what she wanted as much, you know. It was like, oh, this was just one kinky night. I'm not really into this, am I? And there's a lot more to it. So, I mean, if you read The Dare, I highly recommend you do this. If you do like RHs and you want the deeper connection, highly recommend. There are, of course, like, there's a full list of triggers if you read the front of her book. They're mostly all having to do with BDSM. There's also an abusive parent one, and also like a manipulative parent, and of course too, like some homophobia and biphobia and things like that as well. But most of the like content warnings are BDSM related, so check the inside flap, or I mean, you know, the inside of that, she lists a lot of what they are. But boy, I liked it. There was toys used in here. There was some awesome group scenes. There was some great, again, just like the aftercare. There is a giant cuddle puddle, and it was amazing. So I highly recommend this. This was a 5-star for me, and it was a 4.5 on the spice scale. And I can't wait for the next part, which is coming, I think, the beginning of November, so it won't be too long. But anyway, that's going to be it for me today, y'all. Thank you so much for the support you give me my channel. Make sure you subscribe and you like this if you're interested in supporting me long term to help my business. I do have a Patreon and channel memberships listed down below, as well as links to buy any of the books that I mentioned. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.